join this special Google Hangout. This is a new form of technology we're using to try to reach as many people as possible. We understand that people have busy lives, and to get to Montpelier to attend meetings, events, testimonies is very challenging. So I am trying to incorporate this into a lot of the work at the Sierra Club. So the Vermont chapter of the Sierra Club is 9,000 members and supporters throughout the state. We have an all-volunteer-led executive committee who makes the policies on what the Sierra Club is operating on, and we have an active water committee who basically laid out our platform, our agenda, and how we want to go about it. If you actually saw in the Brattleboro Reformer and the Times-Argus last week, our water committee had an excellent op-ed a water op-ed about the status of the Lake Champlain and the waters. But actually, what I have here now is I have Lauren Hierl of the Vermont Conservation Voters, who is going to kind of give us a quick little overview of how Vermont legislation is happening, and I'll let her speak in 1 second as soon as I unmute her. And she can introduce herself and what she's working on. And
Sorry, can you hear me?
Okay, Lauren, are you on? Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me? Excellent, excellent. Yeah, so thanks for hopping on. So I'm Lauren Hierl, the political director with Vermont Conservation Voters, as Rob said, and VCV acts as the environmental community's political arm. So we do things like an environmental scorecard at the end of the legislative session to show voters how their legislators voted on environmental issues like clean water. And we also do a common agenda looking at the big priorities of the environmental community. And this year, clean water was obviously one of those huge priority issues. So we've been working closely with a coalition of environmental groups, including, Vermont Natural Resources Council, Conservation Law Foundation, obviously Sierra Club, and a number of others, Lake Champlain Committee. And so today I'll provide a quick overview of what's happening at the State House, what's in the bill, and what's our position on the bill, and where we go from here, and how you can get engaged to help ensure we pass a strong water quality bill. So big picture, I did just want to give some really brief context that there's more going on than just what's happening at the State House, just so people are aware. So many of you, I'm sure, are following the Lake Champlain TMDL, the total maximum daily load, where EPA said we have to do better in dealing with pollution going into Lake Champlain, phosphorus pollution in particular. And so the Department of Environmental Conservation has been working on a big clean water initiative that involves more than just what's in the bill, but essentially they needed new regulatory authority, new enforcement tools, and more money to actually do on the ground what needs to be done to clean up Lake Champlain. And so that's fundamentally what this bill aims to do. And one of the great things is that the bill was inspired by trying to clean up Lake Champlain, but now does apply to waters statewide. And that's something that was really important to us from the beginning, that it's not just cleaning up Lake Champlain, but that it does tackle water issues that we have across Vermont and that can be used to make sure we have healthy, clean waters all over the state. So just a little bit of context. So I'll just describe a little bit, kind of big picture, what's in the bill, and if people have questions on more details, I'll do my best to answer them, and can get back to anyone if there's something really in the weeds that we need to. But overall, the bill looks at major sources of pollution, focused on things like agriculture, stormwater, wastewater treatment plants, and also creates a clean water fund. So a little bit on some of those pieces. So for agriculture, for example, it mandates that the Agency of Agriculture devise new, what they call accepted agricultural practices. Essentially, what are farmers required to do on the ground to meet our water quality standards? And so trying to get those to be stronger, more protective of our water quality. Simultaneously, that's a great example of where we also need more money. Agency of Agriculture needs more people to be doing the outreach, education on the ground to get farmers up to speed on what needs to be done, and also getting money out there to folks to actually do some of the practices that take resources, like maybe putting in new fencing to keep livestock out of a stream. So those are all, there's a whole kind of suite of issues around agriculture in the bill. For stormwater, there's new permits required for developed lands, things like roads that haven't been dealt with before. There's new road requirements. So hopefully this will set up a framework where we're, as we are building and repaving roads, we're trying to prevent things like erosion on roadsides that's feeding into the pollution of our waters. And there's new requirements on currently developed lands, as well as lands that are developed in the future, for getting permits and developing in better ways for water quality. For wastewater treatment plants, another source of pollution, there's currently on the books a requirement that essentially the state and federal government need to pay for any wastewater treatment plant upgrades, and this bill takes away that requirement. So we can require the water quality standards at these facilities without the state needing to fully foot the bill before they could require that. So that's just a few kind of big picture examples of what's in the bill. It really does try to look pretty comprehensively at the major sources of pollution, again, giving the authority that the Department of Environmental Conservation and the Agency of Agriculture need to carry out the broader Clean Water Initiative to clean up Lake Champlain, and can apply these statewide. So our position on the bill has generally been, glad to see it's comprehensive, glad to see it's statewide, glad to see that there's this great attention on clean water this year, and people at the table that, it's been in the past more contentious, and this year, there've been farmers and the chambers of commerce and others out there talking about the value of water quality. So that's all great. At the same time, we continue to push for there to be more teeth, more requirements in the legislation. There's places where, for example, it gives the Agency of Agriculture the authority to create new regulations, but doesn't necessarily say, what date is that going to happen? How often are inspections of farms going to happen? What type of enforcement are we going to require if we see violations? So there's some of that framework in there, but we're continuing to work to try to make sure that, as the attention on clean water starts to die down, that they really are carrying this out in a way that will, on the ground, improve our water quality. So there's pieces, like I said, in the regulatory framework of trying to get more mandates, more specificity, so that there's requirements that we can hold them accountable to in the future. Better enforcement tools. One example that we're hoping stays in there is farms that are in the current use program, so they're getting the tax benefits of paying a lower tax rate. Right now, there's no requirement that they meet water quality standards. The current version of the bill that's going to the House floor tomorrow requires that now they would need to be meeting the basic water quality standards to remain in the program. Forest land, which has been part of current use for years, has required that they meet, that they have a management plan for their forest land, and so this is really just making it equitable. And if you're getting the tax benefit of being in current use, we think it's only fair that you're meeting the letter of the law in having, meeting the water quality requirements. So that's an example of one of the enforcement tools that we want to ensure stays in the bill. So just let me see a couple other examples. So another big piece of this is the funding. And so in the House, it went through many iterations in different committees, and I'll describe in a minute kind of what the bill has gone through in the State House. But essentially what they've landed on, what will go to the floor of the House tomorrow, is a package that authorizes $8 million. And this is new money. And the bulk of that is a surcharge on the property transfer tax. And so that's when you sell your house, there's a property tax on that that will increase by 0.2%. And they estimate that that will raise about $5.7 million a year or so. And so that money is going into a newly created Clean Water Fund. The purpose of the fund is to get on the ground dollars to farmers, towns, to do things like roads, stormwater projects, all kinds of on the ground things. So that money we think is really critical. We have been asking for that fund to start at $10 million. So it's, a little more than half of what we were pushing for and what we will continue to push for. It's one piece of what we continue to ask for and think that they're not going far enough this year with the current proposal, and we'll continue to push for that in the Senate. There's also part of the funding package includes new fees for the Department of Environmental Conservation. They essentially just increased existing fees on things like stormwater permits. So they raise $1.3 million that will fund 13 new positions at DEC to work on this water quality program. And again, it's essential to get more people in the agency working on water quality to do the education we need, the outreach we need, and the enforcement that we need to make sure that we're really getting these projects out on the ground, requiring people, holding their feet to the fire to meet the standards that we need them to be meeting. For the Agency of Agriculture, which oversees the farms, there were a set of fees, things like permits for farms, which currently we don't require any permit, and it's one of the few businesses out there that has no permit fee. So there's a new fee just to operate as a farm, and it's depending on your size or small farm, there's different scales of what that fee is. So they kind of had a range of new fees, all individually kind of small, but they add up to $1 million in new funding for the Agency of Agriculture, which largely goes to 7 new positions at that agency to do the education, outreach, and enforcement that we need. So we support that. Those amounts are slightly less than what the administration had originally asked for, so we'll keep pushing to get those fully funded. It was about $2.3 million that the House has approved. They'd asked for $3 million for that, so we'll try to get that amount up. So that's kind of an overview of the legislation, and just to give you a sense of where it's been and where it's going. So this bill has been through, at this point, it's been in almost every committee in the State House. It passed through, started largely in the House Fish, Wildlife, and Water Resources Committee, passed out of there on a 7-2 vote a couple weeks ago, went to the Agriculture Committee, passed out unanimously, went to the Ways and Means Committee, where they put that funding package together, passed out unanimously, went to the Appropriations Committee in the House, passed unanimously there as well. So we've had some bring it through those committees. Meanwhile, a handful of other committees like Judiciary and Natural Resources have looked at the bill, Transportation. So a lot of input, a lot of ideas feeding into this, and as you can tell from all of the requirements and all the sectors, a lot of interest from various parties on how the permits and everything are structured. So at this point, the bill has gone through the entire committee process. It's on the floor of the House tomorrow for a vote of the full House. We're hoping for a solid vote. But there's certainly going to likely be some amendments, particularly there's some, grumbling about any new taxes and fees this year, and so we anticipate some floor amendments and other things. And so I know Rob is going to talk to you for a few minutes about how you can get involved, but I really, really make their voices heard. If we can get a strong vote out of the House, that will give us the momentum that we need going into the Senate if we're going to make the bill stronger in the ways that we need to make it stronger. This is the year. We've got the momentum. We've got the EPA out there watching what we're doing, and they have essentially said we have to show them a serious plan for this authority, for the money, and if we don't, then they could come in and require us to do expensive upgrades to things like wastewater treatment plants that would cost way more than what this bill is contemplating, and would only be going after a small portion of the pollution sources. So we really need to grab this moment in time and push for a strong bill. So as we're on the floor of the House tomorrow, the Senate has been simultaneously looking at this issue, taking a lot of testimony, looking particularly in the natural resources and energy, and also the agriculture committees, and a couple others have looked at it as well. But so this has been all over the State House. Tomorrow the action's in the House, and really need to get a strong vote out of the House. So I will now kick it over to Rob, who can talk about how you can get involved. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Lauren. Can you hear me, Lauren? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you can. Great. Okay. Actually, well, I'm going to try to do this. There's a question prompt on some of you on the side of the screen. I'm not sure if anybody has that, because I know I have some questions for you, just in case the technology didn't work out the way I was expecting it. So the first question I have, Lauren, is a lot of people have asked me about Senator Leahy has gotten a lot of federal money for the issue. You can hear it every couple of months. Senator Leahy was successful in getting this particular grant, and we have $50 million coming here. Why is this particular legislation still needed to address clean water if Senator Leahy has been so successful in getting money?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Senator Leahy has done a great job getting, I think the latest estimate I saw was actually close to $60 million. A lot of that is new money we haven't gotten before. To be clear, that is money that largely can go to farms and farmers. It's money that farmers individually need to apply for in order to receive it, and so it's RAM. In the past, we've gotten money that we've had to send back to the federal government because not enough farmers took advantage of it. And so an important piece of what we hope this new funding for positions at the Agency of Agriculture, for example, will help do the education and outreach so farmers know that money is available, so somebody can help them fill out those, I haven't seen the forms, but knowing the federal government, I'm sure it's not a simple grant application. So being able to act as a resource to help people fill out those grant applications, know that money's out there to help them do the kinds of projects on the ground, so that we can really bring that $60 million into projects to put better practices on the ground on our farms is exactly what we need to be doing. So we're able to leverage with, a couple million of Vermont state dollars can leverage this huge amount of federal money to get serious about cleaning up water on the ground. So I think it's just a great example of why we need to put serious Vermont dollars in to take advantage of that money while it's out there. Other questions?
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. There's some type of technical difficulties with me getting actual questions, people. So if anybody has any pressing questions, email me at robb.kidd@sierraclub.org, and I'll change that. But I address a couple questions that people may have. So some of us on the public may not know it, but David Dean is like really the champion on clean water legislation in the House. Has there been anybody else out there who should be given praises for their hard work on this? Is there some other champions that people may not know?
Yeah, this really has been a bill that I have worked really hard on. Starting out, I think it's worth giving thanks if you happen to be a constituent of some of the folks on the Fish and Wildlife Committee who, some Republicans that ran on.
I lost you there for a moment, Lauren.
Oh, can you not hear me? Any better? Can you hear me now? Oh, can you hear me, Rob? I'll keep talking in case you can hear me. So a few people who've been working really hard include on the committee include Kate Webb, Shap Smith. From the beginning, the Speaker of the House has made clear that this is going to be a priority, and he wanted to put a good bill on the floor. Janet Ansell in the Ways and Means Committee, Carolyn Brannigan, a Republican who has stood up for a strong funding package. Similarly, on the Fish and Wildlife Committee, you had Paul LaFave and Steve Blicken standing up for clean water early and strongly. So there's really a ton of people. I'm not listing everyone who's been really productive in helping, but it's been great to see across a number of committees and across the political spectrum the support for clean water. Were you able to hear that, Rob?
Okay, I guess I'm getting some cutouts, and Bob Farnham commented to me that that you're coming in fine. I'm coming in a hard time, so. Okay, can you hear?
Yep. Oh, you just disappeared from my screen, Rob. All right, I just lost Rob. Let me see if I can get him back. Let's see. So I have a group chat thing on the side of my thing. I'm not sure if other people do. If anyone has questions they want to type in, I'd be happy to try to answer them. All right, well, hopefully Rob will join back in a minute. Maybe he was seeing if his connection could be better by checking back in a minute. In the meantime, one of the pieces that I know he was going to talk about was how you can get involved. Tomorrow, again, the vote for the bill on the floor of the House, and we are really, even though we continue to push for the bill to be stronger in some really key ways, more money, more mandates, more teeth, better enforcement, we still want to see the bill move through the House tomorrow with a really strong vote so we can take that momentum into the Senate and use that to help us push for those strengthening changes. So things you can do, call the Sergeant at Arms tomorrow. You can simply, tell them who your reps are, or even if you just say who your name and they'll ask your town, they will know who your representatives are based on your town. You can leave a simple message about, support H35. We need meaningful clean water legislation. So a really simple message, just if they're getting a stack of messages at the Sergeant at Arms, it's 802-828-2228. That you just see those little message slips flying around the State House really do show people that their constituents are watching, that they want them to support this bill, and helps give them the political courage to cast the vote the way we hope that they will, supporting clean water. So really encourage people to do that. Following up on the vote, simple things, writing letters to the editor. Rob, you're back.
Yep.
I was taking the opportunity to talk about ways people could get engaged, starting that conversation, but you could take over for me.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you. I somehow hit major technical difficulties here. I was knocked off and my network was disconnected. So anyway, thank you very much, Lauren, pinching me on this. So I think the quick
you're still cutting in and out.
You said was Okay, so here. Being heard.
Yeah, I'm still having trouble hearing you, Rob.
Okay, well, I have no idea what happened, why I'm getting slow service now. I'm going to try to do it, but the simple point is everybody, you can call to the State House tomorrow at 828-2228 and ask for your representative to vote 5. That's the best and the most effective thing we can do to set up a strong vote. That way it will give the Senate the resolve to actually pass even stronger legislation. If we don't show them there, they won't know the strong support that passed legislation. So we hope that you can make that call in the morning, or actually you can right now, but call tomorrow as soon as you get off the phone call. After you get done with that call, it is very important for you to contact your senators as well, because Lauren mentioned S49, the Senate version of the bill, is going to be debated as well. So you actually will call them and contact your senators to ask them for the support. And basically, the simple message you want is please vote yes for H35 for the House bill. Clean water requires strong regulations, increased enforcement, and meaningful funding. So you basically just use that for please vote for a strong clean water state, because what they're going to do is take S49 and convert it into H35, and we'll have one total bill. Also, another really important thing is we started talking about, before I got faded out, was David Dean is such a champion on this legislation, and I know other representatives have been along the way. Send thank yous. If your representative or committee members, send a thank you. It's very important for them to get the thanks for their hard work, because remember, they don't have any staff, they don't have any people doing the hard of their time trying to grasp this issue. It's not a simple cut and dry issue, so if you can contact your representative and also thank them when they do pass the legislation. And also, if you are able to attend tomorrow, I'm not sure the exact time the floor debate is going to happen on it, but the House goes into session at 9:30 tomorrow, and it's probably, the debate may go on for a while, so if you're able to come into Montpelier, it would be helpful for that as well. So, Lauren, did that call come in fine?
Yeah. Yep. And I would just add, if people are curious, if people are curious if your particular representative has been helpful along the way, you can feel free to email me. I know who's been working on it behind the scenes. My email, Lauren, Lauren, at Vermont Conservation Voters, just all written out, one long word. Oh, great! Look at Rob. So yeah, you can find on our website the contact info and send me a note. That's perfect. So feel free to shoot me a note, and I can let you know if your representative deserves a special thanks or needs shoring up, what tweak on that message. But just making that call, reminding them to vote yes tomorrow, can make a huge difference. So encourage everyone to take a moment to do that. Simple, easy, but effective. Other thoughts or questions? All right. Rob, I'm not hearing anything from you.
Okay, well, I'm fading out here again, so I'm not sure what's happening with the technology here again. Again, thank you for those who are listening and paying attention. I have on my screen that I show there are some viewers. Lauren, thank you for participating in this and filling in on everybody where H35 is. And thank you for digital media expertise in the environmental movement. And he advises me on all these different projects, so I hope to utilize these in a much more efficient manner so it doesn't fade out like so. But I just want to do a quick goodbye, and then Lauren, you can say goodbye as well. But on behalf of the Vermont Chapter of the Sierra Club, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting our work. I hope you can call today or tomorrow at 828-2228, that's in the area code 802, and ask your representatives to vote yes on H35. So thank you very much. Any questions, email me at robb.kidd@sierraclub.org, and I'll let Lauren say goodbye, and thank you very much.
All right. Yes, thank you to Rob at the Sierra Club for organizing this. Thanks for getting on and listening, and happy to answer any more detailed questions you might have. But definitely stay engaged with us. We're happy to keep you updated as this moves through the process, and hope you can make a quick call tomorrow so we can get a strong bill passed for cleaning up our waters. Thanks.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.